What happens when the director of Muscle Beach Party, Bikini Beach, Beach Blanket Bingo, and How to Stuff a Wild Bikini gets together with the writers of Gross Anatomy, Ruskies, Escape to Grizzly Mountain, Abducted, and Abducted 2, The Reunion? Well, you get Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, a twisted little nugget of perversion. So let's go back to 1981 and get creepy. Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, aka Night Warning, Nightmare Maker, Mama's Boy, The Evil Protégé, and Mrs. Lynch was released in 1981. It's available on special edition Blu-ray from Severin Films and streaming on Shudder. It's directed by William Asher and written by Steve Breimer, Alan J. Glueckman, and Boon Collins. Christy McNichol's brother, Jimmy, plays 17-year-old Billy Lynch, a sexually confused adoptive son of his eccentric aunt, Cheryl, played by schlock actress Susan Tyrrell, after his parents are killed in a car accident. About to graduate high school, Billy wants to leave home for college to pursue a basketball scholarship, but Aunt Cheryl has other plans and hopes Billy will forget his dreams of independence and stay with her forever. Let's just say Aunt Cheryl's hands-on approach to parenting is not healthy, and as graduation day looms and college scouts are planning on attending Billy's basketball games, Aunt Cheryl's mind starts to fray. But also grinding Aunt Cheryl's gears is Billy's girlfriend Julie, played by Newhart's Julia Duffy, who longs for more time with Billy. So what's an overly horny and overly protective stepmother to do? Why, begin a killing spree, of course. Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker is a wonderfully perverse little shocker with some very outdated opinions on homosexuality, but nevertheless delivers in shocks, scares, and an especially delicious over-the-top performance by Susan Tyrrell. While Aunt Cheryl's affections towards Billy is twisted and illegal in most states, there is a bit of sanity at the bottom of her off-kilter psychosis. Cheryl seems to be the local spinster, never married after her high school beau died, who devoted her life to her adoptive son when his parents passed. Having Billy leave would leave an enormous void in Cheryl's life, so while her reaction to him leaving might be extreme, the cause of these reactions are quite understandable as everyone feels lonely from time to time. It's this psychological logic line that fuels this unconventional slasher film and makes Tyrrell's Cheryl quite menacingly relatable. At the same time, the film also delves into other areas of psychology as Billy is in the difficult position of being loyal to his aunt who has been with him all of his known life and giving in to his own normal feelings of independence. Freud would have a field day with Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, as it does seem that Billy and Aunt Cheryl are close. And while there's no on-screen sexual interaction between the two, there definitely are beats of the story that suggest it. The Oedipal themes are front and center on the poster, with a knife serving as a phallic object sprouting up from Billy with Aunt Cheryl's eye inside of it. Not very subtle. Billy's reluctance to sleep with Julia definitely seemed to be the result of some kind of guilty feels towards his adoptive mother. You bet it all certainly makes for some squirmy viewing. Adding to the mix is a whole heaping helping of homophobia as the inciting moment of Cheryl's downfall into a big pond of batshit craziness comes from Cheryl being spurned by the electrician she attempts to seduce. This stems as an act of desperation by Cheryl, attempting to be attractive in the eyes of someone again, since just before she discusses Billy's plans to leave. Cheryl reacts violently when the electrician turns her down and kills him. But the murdered electrician is having a gay affair with Billy's coach, played by character actor Steve Easton, a well-known secret in this small town, while Detective Joe Carlson, played by Bo Svensson, is not quiet about his dislike for homosexuals and seems to have an unhealthy obsession with identifying and getting rid of them from his county. I will say the fact that the film deals with homosexual themes from so many different viewpoints is somewhat progressive for its time. Yes, there are homophobic slurs galore in Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, specifically coming from Svensson and Billy's basketball teammate, Bill Paxton, who makes one of his first appearances in this movie. But there are also well-rounded and downright positive aspects of homosexuality, like Billy's parental bond with his coach and sympathetic moments given to the coach after being harassed by Detective Carlson that are given as much time in the narrative. There's never really any mystery as to who the killer is. You're just left with the question as to how far will Aunt Cheryl go to keep Billy with her. Turns out pretty far, and while Tyrell lets loose with an over-the-top performance by the end, it does lean more towards campy as the extremity of her expressions are broad, to say the least. Taking a page from Friday the 13th movies, Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker is much more about the variety of the kills and the fact that Aunt Cheryl just doesn't seem to want to die, springing back to life a few times before the final blow is dealt. Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker is also different than most slashers as Billy is the object of desire of the killer and plays the role usually reserved for the final girl. The film ends abruptly, not really addressing the psychological ramifications of the whole thing on the survivors, but there is a jarring paragraph explaining what went on in court afterwards and a brief synopsis of how the survivors ended up happily ever after. It makes the film feel much more trite, like an episode of Dragnet, than anything else, and steals from the impact of the bloody showdown between the characters during the climax. In terms of gore, there's quite a bit of blood splattered all around, a desiccated corpse, and a head in a jar, but for the most part, the most stomach-churning stuff comes from the psychological nightmares that are examined in the relationship between the various players. Some fun facts include that in keeping with the theme of older woman, younger guy, Julia Duffy was actually 10 years older than Jimmy McNichol. Bo Svensson suffered a painful burn during his death scene when a squib was placed on the actor's stomach backwards and exploded inward instead of outward.
You owe me an apology.
Bill Paxton auditioned for Billy's role, but got the smaller role because the director liked the young actor. And Speed director Jan de Bont worked as cinematographer but left after a week of filming. While the name is a mouthful, I prefer Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker to its alternative title, Night Warning, as I feel the poster looks more like a UFO movie than a slasher. I think it would have been interesting to see more of Billy's complex feelings about his mother, and maybe some kind of sequence where Detective Carlson's fascination with homosexuals comes down to his own closeted feelings. But that's just me wanting an already depraved psychological slasher to be more depraved. But if it's depravity you're looking for, you should look no further than this gritty, campy, and grimy grindhouse slasher from yesteryear. I remember catching snippets of Butcher Baker Nightmare Maker on cable ages ago. When did you guys see the film for the first time? Or have you seen it? Or did my synopsis scare you away? Let me know down in the comments. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be. Stuck inside your reality.